There we have sound. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to coverage of the U.S. Amateur Championship from here at Strokers in the very lovely Palm Harbor, Florida. This event brought to you by the American Pool Players Association. Our streaming coverage provided by our friends at PoolDog.com. I'm your host, Jason Bowman. I'm joined by Double J, Jeremy Jones. Jeremy, we capped off a fantastic Women's U.S. Amateur Championship last night with a 9-7 finale.
Yeah.
Tina Larson, now a three-time U.S. Amateur champion, so a great event there. Today we start anew with the Open Division, or as some people like to call it, the men's division of the U.S. Amateur Championship.
Yeah, it should be great. See a lot of familiar faces, and it's going to be fun to watch these guys. And I don't think we have any ladies entered in the Open event this year. But, yeah, a lot of strong players. It was a great women's event. Look for probably a little higher quality in the Open, of course, but the ladies played great. It's going to be a fun 3 days.
Absolutely. We got 128 players in this year's Open Division. Let's take a look at some of the ground rules real quick before we meet our first participants in our first round. Of course, this is a race to 7, a little bit different than the women's division, which was a race to 5. It's a race to 7 in the Open Division. Again, combination of 8-ball and 9-ball. Because of the longer race, you'll see 5 games of 8-ball and potentially 8 games of 9-ball. Again, that kind of depends on how things play out in the match, depending on how many games it takes to decide a winner. It is double elimination all the way down until the final match, which is single elimination in a longer race. And one of the kind of the differences with the U.S. Amateur Championship is that the winner of the lag chooses either the break or the format being 8 or 9 ball. So a little bit more decision-making that goes in after the lag there.
Yeah, a little strategy there, right?
Absolutely. We saw that last night in the women's division. I think in terms of who we're going to see this morning, we're going to get right into it, folks. We've got David Weiss, Tucson, Arizona, against a very familiar name, 5-time former champion from Bakersfield, California, Brian Parks. Let the online chat debate about whether or not he should be here or not begin. We'll just jump right into it. We figured we'd throw him right out there. But Brian, of course, didn't win last year, Jeremy, for the first time in several years. Was ousted by our defending champion, Abram Shade. Had to earn his way back this year, had to win his preliminary, but here he is and shooting for a 6th title, and it'll start with a match against David Weiss. Before we go to the table, here a quick word from our friends at PoolDog.com.
Tired of the same old when you're buying billiard supplies? Come shop with the big dogs at PoolDog.com. You want pool cues? We've got over 700. Balls, cases, accessories, no problem. Want help with your game? How does hundreds of free training articles sound? Want to shop offline? We'll mail you a free catalog. Hit us up online, PoolDog.com, or call 866-843-3294.
Looks like Brian and David are just about ready. Nice show of sportsmanship with a handshake there. And
yeah, you can see
the break here.
We're starting off with 8-ball.
Going to start in the 8-ball set. This is David Weiss with the break. David, again, is out of Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, nice guy, David. I talked to him a little bit yesterday and then this morning. And he said he's always wanted to play Brian. He would have wished it had been maybe the last match of the tournament instead of the first match. But
in fact, he put that right here on his bio. He wants to have fun, and he wants to beat Brian Parks with a big smiley face. So he is embracing the challenge. Of course, David's been here a few times before, 2013, 14, and 16. Looks like his top finish is 33rd.
Well, he's made a solid on the break here and doesn't have the easiest starter, I don't think. Maybe he can get at the 3-ball. He's got the 2 up in the corner as well. If he can get at the 3, though, that makes things a lot easier. And interesting that it had to be, I guess, Brian picking the 8-ball session first, correct? Since David broke the balls, it must have been Brian that
chose 8-ball.
Yeah, exactly. Which I've seen Brian play. Played him a bunch of times, actually, Brian, years and years ago. I've known him some 20-plus years, I guess. I've never played him 8-ball, so I'm sure he's a solid 8-ball player. He's a real solid pool player, period.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, we didn't see who won the lag, but I assume it was I assume it was David. Brian typically doesn't give up the break.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't necessarily prefer one format or the other. So that's my assumption. But so David, we mentioned he's had a few appearances here. 55 years old. Only been playing pool 11 years.
Yeah, that's pretty
so that's
amazing.
interesting. Found pool a little bit later on in life.
Well,
Said
it's
his business partner introduced him to pool.
pretty impressive, you know, continually qualifying for this event in the prelims.
Sure.
And after, you know, starting at a late age. And it's very hard, usually at a late age. You know, some things, you know, I started at 17, which, you know, most of the guys that play at my level, they start a little earlier. But there's some good things about starting later. I think you understand what bad habits are a little bit more. And okay, big shot here on the 2-ball. Got to move the cue ball a few rails probably for position. Okay, there you go. Pretty solid little stroke right there. So now he's got a couple solids on the side rail that are covered up a little bit. So he's going to have to play some nice position here from the 1 to the 5 or the 4. Yeah, Brian, man, I'm trying to think exactly. It had to be around 97 probably or something like that, 96, 97. He was playing some pro events, actually, and then the Sands event. He played the Sands a lot, which is right there in Reno. Tough player, I tell you. That's a nice shot there. And now David's going to be heavily stretched out here and elevated over the 8, so a touchy shot. And he needs to draw the ball, it looks like. He could go forward. I think the 4 does pass the 9 all the way up, but could get a little thin there. And one thing that's going to be difficult here is stretched over the ball and trying to get at the low part of the cue ball. And not only that, he needs touch doing it. He can't really afford to run into the 4 too much. And if he overhits it, he could get behind the 14. So, yeah, this is the problem here is having to use the bridge and again, probably try to get at the bottom of the cue ball.
David plays out of pockets as well as clicks, both in the Tucson area.
Yeah, what a lovely town. I love Tucson. Love that airplane graveyard. If you ever go, it's unbelievable.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was there 2 weeks. I went out there every day. That's how big it is.
The only reason I know the airplane graveyard out there is from the movie Can't Buy Me Love, which was like from the 80s.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if you remember that movie.
Oh, one of my favorites. Yeah.
Patrick
Oh,
Dempsey.
That's a nice touch there. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Actually made me a Patrick Dempsey fan.
That's funny.
That movie did.
I don't know if they could make that movie these days based on the premise of the movie.
Right,
so
right,
it's kind of interesting how times change. We won't go into all that, though.
Yeah, Con Air, I think they used the airplane graveyard
that's
too.
Right,
also,
that's right. Yeah. So it's made some film appearances. So they're in Tucson. Good start here for David.
Yeah, real smart shot there, too, just taking the cut. Now, he does have a little concern running into the 12. Should be okay if he catches it thick enough. Otherwise, if he catches it a little thin, the cue ball could go towards that upper left corner. So probably not going to hit it hard enough to have any problems. Great shot.
All right, so David up 1-0. I guess that's the best way to beat a Brian Parks or a player of that caliber. You keep them in their seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good start for David. Not phased by taking on the 5-time former champ.
No, and, you know, he has a lot of experience here, so David
he's
does.
been here before. I saw he was here practicing early. He's been on this table for a while.
Well, a real solid run out there, not only
Absolutely.
the break, but just all the decisions and then the execution behind it.
Again, this is winter break format, so
Got
on a nice little run here.
I think we end up having the full 128 show up. I believe
I didn't
so.
confirm, but generally we do. I mean, we don't usually have. It's one of the benefits of coming down, and we pick up the hotel and everything, so it makes that travel a little bit easier.
Okay, so a dry break, but notice not really much of a shot at all besides the cross corner bank on the 12. So early things kind of going David's way. Followed up behind a nice run out. So not only forcing his hand to play the bank, Brian, of course, like all really, really good players, they're going to play aggressively. He's got a lot of issues, though, with that 13-10, the 14 just to the right of it. I'm curious if that kind of looks like that 13-10 might be kind of aimed towards that side pocket right there where he just played the 15. The thing is, if he tries to break him out and he doesn't get him open, the options are starting to become a little limited. Okay, I think he's going to come one rail into the ball, so he wants to do that with a lot of speed so he doesn't get caught up. Nice shot. So it should be something like 13-9, slide over for the 11, and then the 10 in the side last, and probably the 8 in the opposite side. So right here, probably just a stop your ball kind of shot. Yeah, that offers a perfect angle to draw over for the 11.
Brian, another lefty. We've seen a lot of lefties this week.
Yeah, we sure
Starting to
have.
understand why I'm not better at pool. Not a lefty. What a great match that was last night, Jeremy, between Tina Larson
Yeah, a lot
and Natalie Jacob. Holy cow.
a lot of drama involved.
Slugfest there. Not literally, of course. Just a very back and forth match. Great job by Tina in the end. That last game was quite the chess match there with defensive shots.
Yeah, and, you know, as a player and then a spectator, I want to see them under pressure. And you could see there was pressure. You could tell, but they still performed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty impressive.
Nice response there by Brian. Run out of his own. Now
Yeah.
tied 1-1 in this race to 7. Brian will have the break now.
And both these guys play at a nice pace as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll think when needed, but, you know, got a pretty good foundation, both of them, it looks like, for the 8-ball side of the match.
I understand our defending champion, Abram Shade, is here. Look forward to seeing him.
Now, where's he from?
He's out of the Peoria area, and he really
Okay.
burst on the scene last year. You know, he was his first U.S. Amateur Championship appearance, and he came right in, knocked Brian out earlier. He didn't play him in the finals. He knocked Brian out earlier, and then dominated in the finals. So he really came out of nowhere. Really fun player to watch. I think you'll enjoy it. He moves around the table very quickly, shoots very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, the Peoria area's, you know, produced a lot of great players,
Mm-hmm.
especially the 7-footers. There's a lot of 7-foot play up in that area. And Jesse Bowman, he plays great on everything. It doesn't matter.
I get asked a lot if there's any relation. If there is no,
Oh,
not that I'm aware of the same last name. And
Right.
Jason and Jesse, but no relation.
Yeah, and then you have a few of the names are eluding me right now, but okay, so a decision here. You know, the Stripes, they have a few more tied up, but there's balls near the balls that are tied up, like the 13, for instance, but you have the 11 and 10 near and 14 on right there near it also. So when you're thinking about both the solids and the Stripes having balls tied up, well, like the 3-ball, for instance, you want another solid near it when you're making a decision on which route you go, solids or Stripes. The one thing about the Stripes is there's not a great shot. The 9-ball's okay, and that's what he's going to shoot. He's just got to be real careful with the cue ball. He's going to draw into the 7 here. He could get down on the end rail. That's what I would have worried about, not maybe coming away with much of a shot. And now he's got a long 14 that he can't get at the bottom of the cue ball, which really hurts because if he has to go forward, could be a problem getting shape.
Quite a few new viewers over the last few minutes. If you're just tuning in, this is coverage of the U.S. Amateur Championship being held here at Strokers in Palm Harbor, Florida. The first round just getting underway. Watching David Weiss from Tucson currently at the table, and former champ Brian Parks. You see him in the background there. If you're interested, I know we mentioned Abram Shade, the defending champion. He doesn't play till 1:30 today. I'm guessing we'll have his match. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we will lobby for it if that's what you folks would like to see. I know a lot of times, you know, the folks tuning in back home want to see the defending champ with the target on their back and how they can
And I'm sure
manage those expectations.
He'll get plenty of this stream table.
Oh, yeah.
Over the next 3 days.
So he's an exciting one to watch, so look for that later today. For now, David Weiss hanging tough.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what he can do from here offensively. I think it's time to imply a little strategy. I just don't know if the run out's there. And in a little bit of an unlucky situation after the break, he made a pretty nice shot on the 9 and the side and had to kind of let the cue ball wander a little bit. It was just kind of how it was set up, but now in a position to where don't think he can go much further offensively. I think he may have to open the 11 and try and drop to the bottom rail. He could come off the 15 and do so as well. But with the 13 tied up, okay, he went for the bank, and what a shot.
Nice.
And if he can make this 11, if this 11 goes, he may be able to get out now.
David plays league 4 nights a week. Talk about a dedicated player. His philosophy is anyone can beat anyone. See if he can start this tournament off on the right foot by beating a 5-time former champ.
Okay, I think he's called the 11. Oh, he's just playing the safety. Wow, pretty smart shot right there. Making things very difficult for Brian. The 3's not really playable. Maybe cross side. He can play the 3. And it's the only solid that he can really shoot straight at, and does a lot of help for David for him to play off the 3, and that opens the 13 up. So I think he's got to clip the 3 and go down table, but he's got to protect against that stripe up table also. So difficult situation for Brian. He's wanting to leave that ball tied up now. And I don't blame him, but it does, you know, once you move the 11, it does go in the lower right-hand corner. And he made it, so there you go.
Brian Parks here. Brian out of Bakersfield, California. Obviously, his success in this tournament well documented. He's a player you expect to see on the final day. Generally, you want to win this event. It's going to go through him at some point. To go through the bracket and see how many former champs we do have here. And I saw David Rowell yesterday.
Oh, David's won it before.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see. Back in 2000, I believe, David won.
Known David a long, long time. Good guy. Okay, a simple safety here. Not that he could get a snooker, but just trying to cut him off offensively.
Well, I've seen a lot of new names this year. Just goes to show you how tough this competition gets year after year. Jose Del Rio, the owner of Strokers here, qualified.
Well, just imagine how many good players out there in the prelims that have gone and just fell short, you know, year after year to another good player. So eventually they're going to get in.
Stuart Warnock, he's a regular contender, never won the event. Jason Ridgeko, former champion. William Gallagher Jr., another really strong player that we see quite often.
One nice shot there.
James Adams, we talked a little bit about him this morning. Strong player from here in the Tampa area.
I think he's going to roll the 13 and open it and just lay on the back of the 3. That's a smart shot again. All Brian can do from here is really kind of challenge David. He would have liked to have gotten the 13 up off the rail in front of the side. That makes things a lot better. But like I said, I think all Brian can do is challenge him, clip the 3 and come back to this bottom cushion and make I would rather make him cut the ball down the rail than give him a cross-side bank myself. So I would rather see where he's got his hand now. I'd rather come back to that cushion and make my opponent walk one of those balls all the way down the rail rather than come out in the center of the table. I think the cross-side bank is an easier shot.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Okay, coming 2 rails. That's really good speed and really exactly where you want to leave it, right in the middle. And you'll notice the 8 is covered up. So also with a little bit of that protection for Brian, he can do this and leave David this shot on either the 10 or the 13. And you can tell how difficult they are, Jason, both of them. Very tough shots.
This is the first round here in the open division of the U.S. Amateur Championship from Strokers in Palm Harbor. Having some questions about if this is the finals. No, we're just getting started here. Of course, the finals of the women's division was last night. Wrapped up with Tina Larson out of Indiana winning that event. It was her 3rd U.S. Amateur Championship title, first in 12 years for her. She becomes only the 3rd player, or the 1st player in the women's division to ever do that, only the 2nd player overall to win that many titles, second only to the man you're seeing at the table here,
Yeah,
Brian Parks.
She put the watermark on 5 of what she wants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That probably has a little something to do with what Brian's done already.
Brian's legacy is not only a motivator to those in this event, but even on the women's side, you know. You heard Tina just flat out say it. You know, she wants 5 because he's kind of set the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised to see Brian here this year. I wasn't sure. You know, I mean, he's last several years, he sees the internet folks, you know, questioning whether he's an amateur or a pro, and I think it wears on him a little bit, and I know it wears on his family even because it's like, you know, you have the success and you got people questioning whether you should be allowed to play, and you know, I constantly have to remind people this isn't even an event with prize money. Like,
right.
You know, Brian flies all the way from California to Florida at his own expense. I just don't know a lot of pro players that would do that, right? I mean, go play in a tournament with that offered nothing. So, you know, and there's obviously other criteria, but I'm happy to see that he's back. I know a lot of the players in this event would be disappointed to win a title in an event he didn't participate. So he said some folks back home talked him into it. So he did have to qualify this year in a preliminary. One is preliminary.
He's going to draw the cue ball over probably. Oh, my. Didn't expect that.
Kind of a good question. How would the women's champ compare to Brian Parks? That would be an interesting match.
Yeah, I mean.
Tina Larson versus Brian, or Tina versus, you know, Abram Shade.
Right.
I think it would be a great match, you know. We talked a little bit the last couple of days how gender is not necessarily a big factor in pool success, you know. Maybe with the power of the break or some things like that.
Yeah, there's a few physical things, but, you know, it doesn't have to be. I've seen plenty of ladies that can really break the balls.
Tina had a great break.
Had a great
break. She got a 9 on the break. We saw her almost pocket a few 8 balls in the side pocket.
Yeah, she wasn't lacking in the power department, it didn't seem like to me.
David Weiss back at the table here.
Okay, got a little flat here, so he's going to have to put some speed on this to get across because you'll notice the 8. It's not in the greatest of places, so going to have to get pretty nice on this 10 to get to the 8. That might be perfect. What a stroke. Okay, a little short. So he's going to have to really maneuver the cue ball now, and I'm not exactly sure. I think he's just a little too high up the rail to put top inside and come 3 rails for that position on the right side of the table. And I'm not sure the 8 has another pocket besides the upper left. It may go in that side where the cue ball's near now, but you know, I wonder if he I wonder if he just kind of laid this ball up in the lower right pocket, right, and came across the table and left Brian on a long 2-4 combination as all he's got offensively. If it, things might develop better for David in that manner, giving up the table, because I just don't see how he's going to get position on the 8 besides maybe a long rail bank. But that's some of the strategies you can look at about this 8 ball sometimes. You don't always have to make balls to get the win. You can. Okay, he came back and forth just trying to get on that long rail bank, and it's going to be upsetting. I don't think he's even called a pocket. Maybe he has. Okay, using Jimmy Reed's kicking system. You can kind of see what he did there. I'm assuming he's calling the upper left-hand corner. I can't quite tell if it really goes. Looks like if he hits underneath it, it may kiss off the 3 and go towards that pocket. So if he kicks and hits the bottom side of this 8, I think he's got a little more action of maybe making it. Went a little long with that top English. So Brian, who was in a good position earlier, had unforced error miss on the 3 in the side. Something you're not going to see very often from Brian. He's got a chance to recoup here and get game 3. So you'll notice how he played it. He's playing a bunch of stop shots there, and that's the correct pattern. Anytime you can do that, 7 in the side, 2 in the opposite side, 4 in the corner. Now, he must have gotten a little funny here to where he's got to draw back for the 2 in the same side pocket. Well, he got a little out of line again, so I may entertain cutting the 4 here, coming 2 rails for the 2 in the side. Otherwise, he's got to really move the cue ball, doesn't he? Oh, no, he was straight enough. So Brian's going to get his first lead here in the opening match, most likely.
Brian now leading 2-1.
All right, Brian, who in his first break used the second ball break, and it's been a pretty well-used break by most of the players, it seems like. Okay, he's going to make a stripe. He's going to have a long shot on the 13 for the stripes, and actually the stripes are open enough. You can see the 2 over the side pocket. The 11's open enough. The 12 goes. So it's all about this first shot. Now he's going to either have to kill the cue ball with a light speed or kind of move the cue ball a little bit. And not the greatest of pass, really, to get position. He could try to go 3 rails. I like him kind of drawing this back into the 12 myself or into the 1, something like that. Yeah, like so. I think that was his best option as far as getting another shot. And he's got an easy 14 in the side. So should run out from here. Not much to worry about, really. He's got to get at that 11. And the 11 goes in the opposite side pocket, the one he just shot the 14 in. Some concern on the 8 as well. Not that it doesn't go on the side, but we need to gain position. Okay, he's got the 9 in the opposite side. The 11 goes in the corner. So no real problems. He'd like to save that ball on the side to get on the 8, but if he has to use the 11, should be okay.
I probably won't do much other than update the score and change the angle.
Well, the ladies had 44 players. The Open has 128, so that's going to run over the next 3 days, where the ladies was a 2-day event. A little touchy here to float this in, and you want to get past the 11. That way you can naturally go for the 8 in the side. This is what he was worried about, getting a little too thin, but still should be okay, I think.
Sorry, I had to jump off there real quick. Learn to run the mothership here. There's a lot of buttons and things. I don't want to start pressing them without authorization.
Now O'Brien's trying to clean up a nice run here. Got a little thin on the 11 in the side, but he's got choices. He can draw it to the side rail if he chooses, kind of hitting the side rail and then the bottom rail, or he can float it in and go right to the end rail.
Brian wanted to give a shout out to his wife, Sarah, who I know, and the kids back home, and their APA family and friends. Brian's wife, Sarah's a pretty accomplished player.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about your wife maybe playing in this next year. She's a pretty strong player. Brian pockets that 8 in the side, now leads 3-1.
Now, Brian, what's his, I guess he has a full-time job. I'm not sure what career he's in. But
Yeah, he was, let me make sure I get this score updated and don't break anything. Perfect. Insurance. Is it Farmers or State Farm, one of the two? And I think he has, he may own a pool room back in Bakersfield. I'm sure somebody will correct us if any of that's
I didn't know
incorrect, but I've always known him, he was an insurance salesman for a long time.
Oh, I haven't been to Bakersfield in many, many, many years.
I'll be surprised if his wife Sarah's not tuning in at some point, because she generally jumps on there. And
Okay, another second ball break, making a strike. So the format for the 8 ball is you take what you make, and if you make one of each, it's your option. Again, there's a couple stripes that are not so great, but overall, after making a stripe, they sit okay.
ask and the viewers shall respond. Farmers Insurance, thanks Ken Bradley. And he does own a pool room, or did own a pool room, called Cue Ball back in Bakersfield that he just sold. So, you ever owned a pool room?
No.
I know a lot of players sometimes kind of get into that business, at least for a while.
Entertained it a few times.
Yeah.
I was going to do more of a sports bar, pool-oriented place. More of 7-footers.
Yeah.
Okay, tricky out here. You'll notice the 7 is really keeping the clamps on the 9 and the 13, so he's going to have to play some short side position or open that up a little bit. So he's got a nice one rail angle. He wants to float past the 2, I think, in between the 2 and the 7, which becomes very dangerous, but definitely needed. So it's all about speed control here, Jason. Floating the cue ball some 7 feet down the table and can't afford to get over the 2, short of the 2, behind the 7, any of that. The one good thing is he's got a couple of them to choose from if he gets down there, and that speed's going to be all the way to the inner rail. So now here's that choice I was talking about, where if it was just that 9 ball, he'd be in trouble, but he's got the 13 to choose from as well. A little bit of a nervy shot here. He's got to level out and just kind of roll this in and bump the 9. Probably holding position on the 14, but maybe getting shape on the 9 also for the side maybe or something like that. Okay, nice shot.
I want to give a shout out to one of our viewers, Raymond Linares, another former champion. Couldn't be here because he just had a baby girl a few days ago. Congratulations to Raymond and his wife. Nothing more incredible than bringing a new child into the world. Haven't done that, and so I'm guessing he's not sleeping a whole lot these days, but that's all right. He sacrificed the sleep for those little ones. So congratulations again, Raymond. And hope mom and the baby are doing well.
Okay, a pretty solid run out here in what'll be our 5th game. Getting Brian out to a 4-1 lead. And I think this is our last game of 8 ball. Is that correct? It's 8-5, I believe. So we're going to go to 9 ball now.
Trying to pull up the race chart. The race chart? The format.
Yeah, there you go. So they're done with the 5 games of 8 ball, as you can see, and now we'll go to the 9 ball.
You can either have to click it. This is the preview row, which is the same thing as
These guys are on a little timeout.
use the mouse to do that. You actually have to click that.
Graphics 1.
You click it out, and it puts it there, and you can switch to it. If you want it up like immediately, this is your program row, which puts it immediately.
I'll always preview it.
Yeah, so your green row is where you
We
want
gotta
it.
go back to the match though. Where's the match?
So, fixed effects 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1's your log table, 2's the side, 3's the other side, 4 is you guys.
Okay.
And that's usually the table that yeah.
Going through your comments. Lots of fans of Jeremy Jones in the comments, folks. And fans of the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I've yet to have it, but I actually did go to Popeyes one day to try to get it, and that was when the whole
I heard it's
sellout and all that.
pretty incredible, actually. I mean, incredible
it's
might be
gonna
the wrong word,
it's
but
going to be hard to live up to the hype now that I haven't had it. But they've done it. Talk about PR campaigns. That's a pretty good one.
yeah, I'm a Popeyes fan, so I like the spicy chicken.
Well, we got a minute. Somebody had asked, how do you feel about Bergman getting the last Moscone Cup spot? I know we've talked about that, but, of course, our viewers kind of come and go. You got any comments on the Bergman selection?
You know,
Moscone Cup?
obviously had some influence with that pick, so I feel good about the pick. We're here to put the best team up, and kind of felt like that was the route. And it's unfortunate for Corey and Max, of course, and I said it yesterday that I felt like we could win with any combination, but we have to go with our gut instinct as well, that being Johan and I. And, we just kind of felt like that was the way to go this year.
Yeah. I haven't followed kind of the online feedback. I don't think anybody disagreed with the choice.
Well,
except for maybe Corey and Max, and I don't even know if they did. They might just
well,
disappointed that they're not playing.
I saw some comments to where it was, hard to disagree with the choice, of course, with the exhibition he put on at the International, that being Justin. At the beginning of this year, Johan and I talked, of course, about the coming year. And, you know, I think everyone in America would have been okay, us just not even doing any training and just putting the same team out there because they won after so many years. And, you know, when I say not any training, I mean not any extra training with other players. You know, I think, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted competitive. We wanted the guys still striving, which we were pretty confident they would, but also, you know, make it as fair as possible without, you know, being able to go by rankings.
Somebody asked about who's on the Moscone team. Of course, it starts with Shane Van Boning, SVB.
Yeah, Shane and
Top
Skyler
player in the world. Skyler was
were
named at the
picked
same
early.
time. Mr. MVP last year. Tyler Steyer, I believe, was the third player named.
Yeah, after winning the Kremlin Cup.
Billy Thorpe. Now this is his third, I believe, third in a row. Moscone appearance. And then Justin earlier this week named. And then on the European side, you've got Jason Shaw, Clinty Catchy, Alexander Kazakis. Who am I forgetting there? Niels, yeah.
Fan,
and then Josh Filler.
That's right.
Filler, the killer. What he picked up the World Championship last December, right? And then
Yeah, and then followed
US
up with
Open.
the U.S. Open. Yep, I just finished third at the International.
That's quite a year. He's
Yeah,
gonna be tough.
he's 22 years old now, I believe. And
Didn't he win the MVP in 17 at the Moscone Cup?
as a rookie,
Yeah, 21 years old.
No, he was. I think
Was
he
he
was
even
21?
21?
No, he was 19. I think.
Incredible talent there. What is he, out of Germany?
Yes, he
Josh?
is. Josh is.
Whew. He's going to be around a long time, folks.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at, you know, just look at the International a week ago, and you look at all the young talent, and you know, 100 great players, and there were still, you know, you're probably still missing 30 or 40% of the rest of the world that plays great. That, you know, not everyone can make every tournament. Visas and everything are very difficult for some countries. But yeah, if you're a pool fan, and I know the next 20 years or so is going to be a pretty high class playing going on if you're going to try and win a pro event.
Yeah, a lot of great young talent. A lot of great talent here in this event.
Oh yeah.
Top tier amateur players, one of which is at the table now, David Weiss, taking on Brian Parks, 5-time former U.S. amateur champion. David trails by 3 games here, but
He needs that to go, yeah. And that's where, instead of coming 2 rails there where speed control has to be so good, maybe just 1 rail right to the center of the table, because you need an angle on the 6 anyways to come back for the 7, and it's kind of like you get to shape a little quicker that way. Nothing wrong with 2 rails. That's a natural way to shoot it, but sometimes, you know, when nerves are high, speed control means everything, and if you come 1 rail, you kind of get shaped real quick, you know, and then as you go as you get closer to the 6, you get better shape. Is all you did. The shape improves a little. He's going to cut at this with the bridge too. This is a thin one, so the cue ball is going to have a lot of speed on it. I don't expect him to spin this in with left English, mainly just straight. David really hasn't. Oh, great shot, and really good control as well. That was a difficult shot to hold the angle on the 7. David opened with a nice run in this match, and he really hasn't done much wrong. There was a little bit of a tactical game, and then Brian ran a couple racks behind it.
I like what I've seen from David here.
Yeah, I liked what I heard last night and this morning. That seems very loose.
He was ready to embrace
Eager.
the challenge of
Yeah,
playing
exactly,
Brian. He
yeah.
knew he was playing Brian. He was eager to embrace it. You got to beat him. You might as well do it in the first round. 8 in the corner for David. Cuts into Brian's lead. Just needs that 9 ball and be down 2 games.
Yeah, these guys aren't wasting much time and not making really hardly any mistakes.
Nicely done.
Now 4-2.
David will have the break here. Just settling in here at Strokers in Palm Harbor, Florida. This is the first round of the U.S. Amateur Championship, the Open Division. A lot of folks call it the men's division. Technically, it's not a men's division because women can qualify. Of course, we do have the women's division as well. Most opt to play there, but
Now, can they qualify for both, the lady? Can they? I guess they
that's
could.
a good
huh?
question. Leave it to Jeremy Jones to come with a question I can't answer.
Well, I figure with the, they're not simultaneously
I
playing, right?
suppose they could if they played in preliminaries that weren't at the same time. They have to
Right.
play in a different preliminary, obviously, because
Right,
sometimes
right.
they overlap. But
Right. But as far as if you got here, seeing as how the ladies play the first 2 days and the Open is the next 3 days.
it's theoretically possible.
Okay, well, not what David was looking for, trailing 4-2. Really, I think his first kind of blatant mistake is scratch on the break. Okay, so he's going to have to move the cue ball 3 rails all the way down table. He could come 2 rails with draw, but I kind of think he's going to go 3 rails around the 5. And he's got to go a long ways. That way he gains an angle on the forwards just in case he lands on the rail with the cue ball, because he's got to get all the way back up for the 5. Okay, and that's a nice shot. And staying off the rail really helps.
This is a pretty good question. Kenny, we'll get to that question just a second here at the end of this rack. That's a good question he's got for Jeremy, though.
Another one here, stay off the rail with the cue ball, because you need some angle, and if you don't get angle, at least if you get straight, you can draw the cue ball or maybe force the cue ball into position. Oh, that wasn't as well struck as he wanted, but yeah, you see him kind of shrugging it off a little bit there. So now he's got to load this up with some heavy left spin to come back 1 rail for the 8 and dodge not hitting the 9 ball. Nice shot. And Brian, I haven't seen him play in quite some time. He seems like he's picked up the pace a little bit than what I remember from a few years ago.
Now
Probably
shooting
pretty
the 9
confident
ball.
in this room right here, I
Yeah.
guess.
That he is. A lot
maybe-
of success for Brian Parks in this building, no doubt about it. He embraces the challenge each time. Pockets that 9, now leads 5-2. Get that score updated. Jeremy, good question came in from Ken Bradley. Wanted to get your opinion on the primary difference that you see between top amateurs and pros. Is it pattern play, break, speed control position? What do you notice when you see the difference between an amateur and a pro in terms of their talent level?
Well, I see plenty of amateurs that I would, that I actually teach, a lot of them that have plenty of talent. And, probably when it comes down to just, simple, in the most simple way, I would have to say consistency. It's just like mistakes, right?
Consistency.
We
yeah,
all
that's a
make
good
the
one.
same mistakes generally just because the way the sport's set up, the fundamentals in the sport. Meaning when I teach really good players, they make a lot of the same mistakes the amateurs do. They just don't do it quite as often, and maybe not quite as severe, but, there's not, probably also picking up the game a little quicker, because most of the good players, the pros or whatnot, they've been around a lot of great players for a long time. So it's a lot easier to pick up the little things there, where some of the amateurs, they don't get to spend quite as much time with the pros. It's kind of like when I started playing professionally. I wanted to improve, and I was real good friends with Johnny Archer. We were rooming together, and he said, well, if you want to improve, you got to go start playing pros. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only way to get, all that knowledge and understand what they do under pressure. And he was right. So it's really hard to replace that time spent with the better players.
Yeah. I know we had a question about how does APA define a pro versus amateur. It's difficult. I mean, there's not like a fine line like in, say, professional baseball, right? Where you're either playing for an organization in the minor leagues or so for us, we have to look at it on kind of an individual basis, right? What does this player do? Do they have a living, right? Do they have a full-time job that can be documented? A lot of these guys will play in some pro events. They'll enter a pro event here and there if it's local to them. How many pro events are they playing in?
Right.
How are they doing in the pro events?
Sure.
Do they have sponsors? Are they doing, exhibitions and teaching. And, you have to really look at it on a case-by-case basis, try to figure out a good example of this. And you'll like this one, Jeremy. Sky Woodward used to play in our league in the Paducah area. And people were saying, this kid might be, a little too good. And I remember when Bill Tufts, our tournament director, Bill, he had to tell Skyler, like, hey, unfortunately, you're kind of pro level now. You're too good. And Skyler was not happy, obviously, about it. So years later when I talked to him, I said, I guess we were right on that one, right, after the MVP?
Yeah.
And he still says, well, I still hadn't won enough at the time. So anyway, it's
tough,
hard to define, though.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I mean, if someone gets, like Skyler, for instance, young, talented, kind of sees, gets it, the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what if he didn't have any titles or, really aspire to win big events, and he just, really one of those guys that really improved but still wants to just play APA and play amateur? What do?
Yeah.
It's very hard to
Absolutely.
exclude him, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of sports, I think you and I talked about it yesterday or the day before. Okay, a little unlucky there. I'm not so sure position was always going to be there, but he didn't have to get snookered. But one thing that I think you and I talked about, in other sports, as soon as you earn money, you're a professional.
Yeah.
So here
So anytime you cash in a tournament, you're a professional.
Yeah, you're
now.
considered a professional, and mainly not to give you that professional rank, but mainly to disqualify you from amateur
right. Yep.
status
Yeah.
is the main reason. It's not so much to say, he's a professional golfer. It's,
right.
He's just not an amateur no more is what it is.
And that's how pool's kind of an interesting animal because, like you said, most of the time, pool obviously prize money payout is very prevalent in all levels of pool, even at the amateur level. It's one of the things that makes this event so unique is that there is no prize money, but of course, all of our other events, we do over $1 million in prize money each year. And
right.
Theoretically, all those people in most sports would no longer be amateurs just because they won.
That's correct.
A couple $100 here or $1,000 there.
Yeah, that's why you go to a golf tournament. They always give away merchandise and the amateurs and stuff like that. And be honest with you, it may take a little time, but I think the amateurs would still be a very significant number of people, even if it didn't pay. Be honest with you, I know this one doesn't, and it would be a shock to their system for a while. But, I mean, most of the amateurs, they don't have to earn that money in the amateur events. They have regular careers. They love the game.
Right.
I don't think that you would keep them away from competing if it had changed to where, like other sports, where amateurs don't actually earn cash.
Yeah. Well.
Now, you may not get some of the regional events to where some of the top players go around with the amateurs and compete, which is one of the beautiful, unique things about our sport also. As you get to play some of the best in the world sometimes with where other sports you would
never get a chance.
Yeah, that would never happen.
No,
yeah.
I can't go pitch to Aaron Judge or
Right,
some of those
right.
guys, Carlos Correa. I can't just go throw some pitches to them and see if they crank them out of the park.
Yeah.
Whereas you get in the right tournament, you get the right spot in the bracket, you might play Jeremy Jones or
I kind of
Efren Reyes.
feel like
or
I could
somebody
put
like
the
that.
bat on a few of Garrett Cole's pitches.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, not hit him
Yeah.
really anywhere maybe, but just
maybe
foul
maybe
ball
you
here.
square
and
around
there.
the bunt.
Yeah. Well, I could definitely bunt. I think.
All right.
I think I can bunt better than some of the pros that I watch. To be honest with you.
Brian is cruising right along now, and
Yeah, and David really, again, he had a scratch on the break. He had a couple really nice runouts, and then right there he had to turn the cue ball loose and kind of didn't get much luck behind it. So if you're David, keep your head held high because there's, is it 6-2 already?
yep,
Okay.
just like that, Brian's on the hill.
Or gift of gab. My gift of gab, I guess, is kind
a
of.
lot to talk about. We try to answer as many comments as we can, and we try not to stray too far from the table in terms of what we're talking about. But if people ask questions, we try to oblige. And
Yeah.
sometimes like last night, we got into kind of that safety play. There's only so many things we can say about what's going on the table because you're not exactly sure what's going to happen with the.
Yeah, and the safety play is, there's some explanations needed, but it's pretty obvious, kind of what, the guys and the girls are doing whenever they're playing safe. And it's a big part of the game, don't get me wrong, but it's probably gives you a little more opportunity to discuss a few other things.
Yeah. Yeah, if you didn't catch the finals of our Women's U.S. Amateur Championship last night, I'd encourage you to go back and watch that match.
Yeah, and
Great match. Ended 9-7, nearly hill. Tina Larson winning her 3rd title over newcomer Natalie Jacob, the highest finish ever for a Canadian. And man, she was strong. In fact, I might go back and watch that hot seat match first, and then watch the championship because she was up 4-1 in that hot seat, and then Tina came storming back, won all 3 in the 8-ball set, and
well, you'll
that
see.
comes into play in the finals too. You know?
Yeah, you'll see Tina back, of course, next year and many more years, I'm sure. But I think you'll see Natalie back as well. And
yeah. She
probably
might practice some 8-ball.
That's what I was about to exactly say. Go brush up on her 8-ball because there's plenty of great.
Oh,
great
nice
shot there. There's plenty of great 8-ball players up her way in Canada. And I think I saw her leaving this morning.
Heading back to
it
Montreal.
looked like they were packed up.
Yeah. She was super nice. Came around.
Yeah, really nice lady.
You know, thanked all of our tournament staff. Thanked us for all of our work. And
well, I'm surprised he's
nice
going to the upper right here. The upper left also offers position, and it's a bigger pocket. Yeah, that's a much more missable ball than the upper left-hand corner, just from the angle. The object ball is going towards the pocket. So
can't make many mistakes like that against Brian.
No, and
he's going to make you pay.
Yeah, there hasn't been really, David. It's just a couple unfortunate things, couple mistakes, of course, and then Brian capitalizing.
Jeremy, did you ever play Jay Swanson at the Sands in the 90s?
No, actually, I'm not sure when Jay passed away.
Yeah.
I guess it had to be the early 90s because I started at the Sands about the mid-90s or so, and unfortunately, I never got to meet Jay. He was really good friends with Johnny, and I traveled with Johnny for about 6 years all over the world, really playing tournaments. And Johnny told me so many great things about Jay Swanee. So I wish I had got to meet him. I tell you, he sounded like my kind of guy.
Names you hear over the years in pool, you know.
So
they just still do a memorial tournament for him. With his name so big.
Well, he was a very well-liked individual, let alone a great player, of course. But usually those memorials, it's all about really your personality a little bit more than your play.
All right, folks, there you have it. Brian Parks off to a strong start in this year's U.S. Amateur Championship, wins 7-2 over David Weiss. Congratulations to Brian. David will move to the one-loss side of the bracket.
Yeah,
and we'll see him again.
Yeah, keep his head up.
Yeah,
he played well.
It's a tough draw in there when you get Brian Parks in the first match. So we're going to take a quick break, folks. We will be back with round 2 here in just a few minutes. Thanks for joining us.